The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess was released in 2006 for the GameCube and Wii, and ever since I played it to 100% completion in 2008, I considered it to be among my least favorite Zelda games. That's not to say Twilight Princess is bad or anything, it's just that I never really enjoyed the game's pacing or overall structure. However, that was over 8 years ago, and I haven't touched the game since. That's why I was so excited to get my hands on this HD version of Twilight Princess, which I've been playing and completing for weeks. So, what you should know about this review is that I'm not going to be going fully in depth with every detail and aspect as I normally would. Since I'm planning on doing an entire Zelda retrospective next year, I figured I would do so during that time. For those wondering, my plan for the rest of the year is to finish up the Spyro and Animal Crossing retrospectives in the coming weeks, then move on to Kingdom Hearts and Pikmin, and finally to Crash and Sonic. I know that's quite a bit on my plate, but I hope you enjoy all of these as they come out. Anyways, just how is Twilight Princess HD as a port of a much beloved Zelda game? Have my dated opinions changed at all? Well, obviously they have. But before we get into why that is, let's discuss a bit of the story. By the way, this is going to be entirely spoiler-free, unlike my last review. So our hero, who's a bit horny, wakes up in Orden Village where he runs around doing some errands. And this, my friends, is one of the worst parts of Twilight Princess, the intro. After playing the game 3 times for the GameCube, Wii, and Wii U, I can say with utmost certainty that the beginning is too long, tedious, and somewhat pointless. There's no reason why I should be forced to herd goats twice before even getting to the first dungeon. Ghost herding is not fun in the slightest, and while I appreciate the text and sound effects that display when you get a goat in the shed, it doesn't make up for how much this breaks up the flow of the game. The same can be said for the sword and slingshot tutorials that thankfully you can skip in the HD version. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can in the originals. Regardless, this is a welcome change that I imagine will make the game a bit more inviting to replay. Once the hero is done running errands, they venture to the Faron Woods, rescue a kid, and then witness your friends and yourself being captured by Twilight monsters. In the realm of the Twilight, the hero is transformed into a wolf, meets Midna, and eventually hears Zelda's story of woe and despair of how her kingdom was attacked by the Twilight monsters. Now, with Midna's guidance and her own motives, you're tasked with restoring the light to Hyrule and taking down this mysterious villain to save Zelda. It's pretty standard stuff as far as a Zelda plot is concerned, but Twilight Princess attempts to be darker in its tone and setting. The story, environments, and characters are all intentionally creepy and uncomfortable. For the most part, this works fairly well, and it's not as contrived as some edgy story, like Shadow the Hedgehog. Midna, for example, is easily the best Zelda guide ever conceived, and is the backbone of what makes Twilight Princess so amazing. Her humor, her mysterious motivations, and the way she moves when she talks all add up to a stellar, interesting character. Even Zelda, though she's not there for the majority of the story, is dynamic when she does appear. I've seen some people complain that Zelda isn't in this game as much as she should be, but I would disagree. The minimal use of her character makes her all the more special when she does appear. Like I said before, the intro to Twilight Princess is the one aspect of the story I don't like at all. The errands you have to run are frankly stupid, and the fact that you don't get to the first dungeon until about 1.5 hours in is disappointing and obviously slow. See, this slow pacing is a double-edged sword. Oftentimes it adds to the complexity of the plot and makes it more compelling, but sometimes it just bogs down progression completely. The sound design, on the other hand, is just as good as it was in the originals. I love Twilight Princess's orchestral soundtrack, and the HD port has done nothing but make it slightly better. From the weird tracks in the Twilight to the glorious triumphant pieces like Hyrule Field, this OST is amazing. As for the most important part of this HD version, the visuals, they're kind of lackluster. One thing I want to make abundantly clear is that Twilight Princess HD is not a remake. It's an HD port, or a remaster if you will. There's nothing substantial that the developers implemented here to make it be classified as a remake like Majora's Mask 3D is. I thought the visuals of the original Twilight Princess game for the Wii and GameCube were pretty okay. The muddy look was, in my opinion, sort of stylistic and represented the darker tone of the game. Even if that wasn't the developer's intent, I didn't really mind it. If you can get the GameCube version running in HD, the visuals are fantastic. But I can't really say the same thing for the HD port. Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate that all of the set pieces and textures are more polished and slightly upgraded, but a lot of the beauty of the visuals was lost in the transition. Take Link's wolf form for example. If you compare his mane in the HD version to the GameCube counterpart, you'll notice the HD wolf's hair looks metallic, just like the characters in Sonic Adventure DX. The GameCube's Wolf Link was much more natural and didn't stand out from his fur-textured body. It's little changes like these with character models and environments that make the HD port somewhat inferior to the visuals of the originals. I don't really know how to describe it, but many areas, enemies, and characters look off. Aside from those awkward details, the port is visually okay. I wouldn't call this remaster as great as Wind Waker's was, but it's not as bad as the Arkham Knight PC port was. On the brighter side of things, the gameplay is just as enjoyable as it was in the originals. I've come to acquire a greater appreciation of how Twilight Princess plays too. See, unlike Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time, you can actually run and swing your sword at the same time. This level of innovation is unparalleled to anything else any Zelda game has ever offered. This changes the entire game, despite the fact that cutting down grass is more difficult. Seriously, this makes combat a lot more fast-paced and interesting. With an updated moveset, waiting around for enemies to unveil their weak spot is a thing of the past. For example, with the baboon monster you fight in the Forest Temple, you can defeat him quickly if you're able to roll into the poles fast enough and knock him down. In many ways, you control the pacing of almost every fight. With Wolf Link, combat is somewhat slower, unfortunately, since you can't do a finishing move where the enemy is on the ground. This is one thing I was hoping the remaster would add. Looking past that, the entire combat system is unique and entertaining. The items are also a nice feature as they have some new elements like the boomerang creating gusts of wind. Not to mention aiming the projectile weapons is a lot easier with the gyro controls of the gamepad in HD, even though I thought they were fine in the GameCube version. Oh, and I also really love how you can find items on the ground in Twilight Princess as opposed to finding them in chests. It's a nice small feature. The other part of the game, exploration and dungeon crawling, is equally as fun as the combat. Exploring the vast terrain of Hyrule on Epona or the Twilight as Wolf Link can get tiresome, but I always enjoy doing it. Though the world is a bit bare compared to how much content and variety was in the Wind Waker, it's not inherently bad. I know some people have a problem with how bare bones some Zelda worlds can be, but I never really minded it. Truthfully, it doesn't take that long to get from point A to point B at any time with Epona or Midna's teleportation. There are secrets scattered around and side quests to be done in said world, which only makes exploring better. The dungeon crawling and dungeons in general are also wonderful. These have to be some of the most interesting and distinct dungeons in any Zelda game. The Forest Temple is designed really well and in a way that players can blow right through it if they want to. And the Snow Peak Ruins is a cool choice for a Zelda dungeon. All in all, Twilight Princess as a game by its own merits is great. The story holds your attention, the characters are memorable and developed, and the gameplay is fun and at times challenging. As far as the HD port is concerned, it's very lackluster. Sure, you could argue the updated visuals, amiibo functionality, and hero mode justify the purchase, but once again, I would disagree. The visuals are not as polished as they could have been, with character models looking too chrome-like and awkward, and the environments also looking somewhat half-assed. Plus, the amiibo functionality doesn't really add that much to the game. The Wolf Link amiibo is neat, but just adding the Wolf Link to the Cave of Shadows isn't too game-changing. And the other amiibo don't add much to the game in order to increase the difficulty. Likewise, I played a bit of my second playthrough on hero mode, and I didn't think it was that challenging. But that's coming from a seasoned Zelda player, so take that opinion with a grain of salt. What I'm saying is that the HD port could have been a lot better. If you don't have access to a GameCube or something unconventionally similar, then I would recommend you get the HD port at some point. I believe the GameCube version is the superior one and still looks good today. It's not like the Wii port is any worse, too, because I honestly prefer both over the HD remaster. It seems to me like Twilight Princess HD was rushed to make a quick buck or something, because I'm sure Nintendo anticipated people to just gobble it up when it does come out. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're okay with the HD port adding very little to the Twilight Princess experience, go for it. Just know that the Wii and GameCube versions are what I consider to be the definitive versions of this game and are substantially cheaper. If you really want to buy it, you can always wait for a price dropper sale. But if you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching and take care. Have a wonderful day and goodbye.